G'day YouTube. Fairly smooth actually. Dundee Pale Ale, malt liquor. Okay. Let's see if a little bit of strong beer can assist with a clip that's been frustrating and foiling my efforts all day. I want to talk about Inmendham on the Spambitch bar show, where he went on there ostensibly seeking assistance from high subscriber number YouTubers who are part of what he calls the atheist community, the YouTube atheist community. Now there's an interesting concept, the idea that spread around the world there's a sort of crypto-subterranean loose-knit alliance of people who don't believe in God and they want to proselytise their belief in God's non-existence. A lot of people have never heard of the YouTube atheist community. So anyway, he wants these high subscribers numbering YouTubers to assist with the petition for clemency to be delivered to the Indonesian government on behalf of derived energy. And he didn't have a lot of success in selling his game plan. Now, I don't know whether Gary has ever attended a sales training course, ever. But one of the things that I was taught when I was a baby insurance salesman was that in every interview, a sale is made. You will sell your product, or the client will sell their objections. So Gary went in there and he utterly failed to sell his product, which is he wanted the atheists he was talking to tell all their subscribers what a good idea it is to sign the petition. So he should have limited himself pretty much to the petition, but instead of that he went there with a grandiose scheme which revolved around the idea that Indonesia is a nation of uncivilized, savage barbarians with religious connections, if not an actual religious dictatorship. Therefore, thus and because they had no right at all whatsoever to apply their laws to visiting nationals of Western civilized industrial countries who were only over there to help them by teaching them English anyway. And thus and because all the Western, quote, civilized nations should collectively, immediately break off all economic and diplomatic ties with Indonesia because they're a bunch of civilized Muslim barbarians, as evidenced by the fact that they've locked up derived energy. And that was the sensible part, right? After that, he launched into stories of how America deserved to be bombed, and how everybody who was on the Spambitch chat show were disgusting human beings, and it went on for nearly 20 minutes. And I can only assume that Gary is clinically insane and is psychotic, out of touch with reality, and is therefore not accountable for his actions in the same way that some people get sent to the lunatic asylum when they are known to have killed somebody, but they are not mentally fit to be tried. Unfit to plead, as they put it. So if Gary is utterly psychotic, then I could justify, you know, sort of gritting my teeth and forgiving him for what he's doing. But if he's not psychotic, if he's just psychopathic, if he knows what he's doing and he's doing it anyway because it's going to serve his ends and he doesn't care what the consequences are because it's not him who's going to suffer, then gee, he really is a vicious, self-centered, self-righteous, dangerous son of a nasty pair of parents who didn't give him enough cuddles when he was supposed to be being breastfed. And seeing as he was a twin, that probably is what happened, you know. I mean, he's 3 years older than me, so his mother was probably on barbiturates. Meltdown was the drug of choice before Valium came along, and phenobarb fitted him there somewhere in the middle. You can imagine the little suburban domestic shithole where daddy goes to work all day and mummy gets snowed under all day, so she eats zombie pills, and, you know, the kid grows up with a yearning attention deficit where their emotional stability should be, and they overcompensate. So the question is Gary bad or is he mad? Because I've been watching in absolute horror as Gary has led people who want to help DE into actions which are apparently calculated to make DE's sentence as harsh as possible and his life in jail as miserable as possible and last as long as possible. Why do I say that? Well, I live in a country of 23 million people. It has an army, Navy, Air Force, intelligence services, cyber security unit. We pay somebody to sit there and trawl the internet looking for people who are disaffected with our government and our system to the point where they are posting incitement to violence against our system. I bet, even with only 23 million of us and the whole fucking world out there, if somebody suddenly generated 400 movies per week saying that Australians were assholes because we had someone in jail and therefore we deserved to be hit by earthquakes and tsunamis and the whole world should stop trading with us, pretty sure our cyber spooks would notice it. Gary's been asking his subscribers, all 8,000 of them, to make movies saying Indonesians are a bunch of assholes because he doesn't like their pot laws and they've got DE in jail. If 5% of them do what he says, that's 400 movies in a week. There's 250 million Indonesians, so they've got at least 10 times the resources to scour the internet looking for people saying nasty shit about them than Australia does. So I'd say when the 40th Indonesia Sucks Free DE movie went up, that's when they noticed it. Since then, I suspect, I think it's very probable, there's been at least one and probably maybe as many as 3 Indonesian intelligence officers looking into, quote, the YouTube atheist community, watching movies and probably having their brains fry and drip and melt and fall out their ears because the concepts are going to be so fucking foreign to them. The idea that they're not going to tell the police prosecutor and that it's not going to appear on the charge sheet, wow, that's a fucking long shot that you guys have taken with his life. You go and have a look at my scroll for a movie called Asian Drug Laws, the MLV in brackets, viewed from the south. I didn't mention DE in the fucking movie. I didn't mention Kirk Neville in the movie. I didn't mention the details of his case because I didn't want to go bing on the Indonesian cyber spook who fucking hates our government radar. Because I had a concern for the health and safety and well-being and security of my subscriber. You know, why am I doing this? It's because Kirk subscribed to me. I didn't know his name was Kirk, he was D. And he was a very eloquent EFIL-ist who was polite enough not to hit me with ad homs after the first 1 or 2. I deflected by admitting, you know, literal truth of some of them. You know, okay, yes, I'm old. You know, Tell me somebody who controlled their own date of birth. I fucking didn't, you know. I'm an Australian by accident. I know people who chose to come here, migrants, you know. But nobody chooses their date of birth. Yes, I'm old. So yeah, eventually, after a bit of spatting in the early days, our comment thread interactions became more or less friendly. And when I heard he was planning on going to Indonesia, I'm sure I remember warning him that, you know, their laws are very harsh, be careful. And because he'd travelled to all sorts of places, I thought he knew what he was talking about when he said, yes, it's okay, it's all under control. Well, obviously it wasn't under control. He only thought he knew what he was talking about, you know? He's like the bloke who thought he farted. The fella who thought he strapped his parachute on when he jumped out of the aeroplane, he pulls his ripcord and watches his camping gear go cascading into the sky while he falls to the ground and goes splat. Kirk thought he knew what he was doing when he went to Indonesia. That was his problem. He went to Indonesia to live in among the Indonesians and teach them English. Well, you know, they don't really like imperialists. And most of the mid-30s white men who go to speak English living in Indonesia, they're Australian and New Zealand sex tourists, mate. So wherever he went, the neighbours would have been looking at him real hard. You know, like I said, the mistake was going to Indonesia. If he was going to go to Indonesia and put himself under scrutiny by being an English-speaking white man in his 30s living in the suburbs, if he was then going to go and smoke pot where his neighbours were already looking at him, okay, that's dumb. That's really, really, really dumb. I'm sorry that he did a dumb thing, but he did a dumb thing and he stuck with it. But the last thing he needs is for the Indonesian judicial system to take official notice of the fact that he's an atheist. If they've gone out there and interviewed people at his school where he worked, and they've probably done that to see if he was selling them pot or buying pot off him, but if they've gone out there and interviewed them about atheism on the information of the cyber spooks, if he has mentioned atheism, EFIL-ism or anti-natalism to anybody at the school, be it student or staff member, and if they are prepared to testify, then it's effectively what Gary has achieved by his Indonesia Sucks campaign will be like having one of his friends swimming in a sea of sharks and chartering a helicopter to go over and drop buckets of fish guts around him to attract more sharks and make sure he gets chewed up. Worse. That's what Gary's done to my subscriber. Thrown him to the sharks with buckets of fish guts by drawing attention to the fact that the Indonesians don't just have a stupid English teacher who was smoking pot in their country, because that's how they look at him. They think anybody who breaks their laws is stupid. Right? Recalcitrant. Disobedient. They educate with the cane over there. If they decide to see him as a atheist proselytizer behind Islamic lines, subverting the minds of their youth, then he's going to go into court next week, and I assume he is going to go into court next week because by the 18th that'll be 90 days since they arrested him, I think. If he goes into court and finds that he's got religious charges to deal with as well as just pot smoking charges to deal with, then in my opinion that is the direct consequence of the Indonesia Sucks campaign. So yeah, I really fucking hope Gary's mad, because if he's got extra harsh treatment for Kirk in order to aggrandise himself with the Indonesia Sucks campaign, then that's bad, right? And why would he do such a thing? Well, the only rational reason for anybody even a power crazy psychotic megalomaniac, you know, on a ballistic trip, the only reason for them to want to do that would be the way you spell dead activist is M-A-R-T-Y-R. It's why the rednecks don't shoot me in the headlights while I'm opening the gate. At the moment, I'm a loudmouth, tree-hugging poet living on an endangered species sanctuary feeding the kangaroos. If they fucking assassinate me, all of a sudden I've got a huge following. Gary's either mad or he's bad or he's fucking viciously megalomaniacal enough to feed his friend to the sharks in the hope of acquiring an atheist, anti-natalist, EFIL-ist martyr who's died in jail for being an atheist. So what's it to be? Is Gary bad? Is he mad? Or is he fucking Hitlerian? Right? Because I am fucked if I know. I honestly can't tell you the answer to that. But those appear to be the options. Bad, mad, or violently fucking Hitlerian. Gary won't have the guts to go to Indonesia. Forever Wolf Films, you say you've never had a friend in jail before. That means you're a clean skin, thus and because you can get a shiny American top-grade passport. Skid Row Radio, you've got great bureaucratic skills and a nice touch of elan. So how about you organise the money to support DE, because he's going to need the support no matter what happens next week. And if not Forever Wolf Films, draw straws among yourselves in the EFIL-ist anti-natalist community and find somebody who's prepared to go over there and spend a week sorting things out. I can't do it because I've got 5 convictions for indictable offences and I don't think my government would give me a passport, and I'm not fucking leaving Australia if I can't get back in. So, sorry, Derived Energy, I don't care that much about you. But I do care enough about my subscriber to keep sticking reality in the face of his erstwhile friends who say they want to help and at the moment are achieving nothing but, you know, taking away the commercially manufactured plastic dildo and replacing it with, you know, 6 pieces of barbed wire inserted through polypipe. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. Ciao.